creating beyond calculation, beyond politics, and beyond the big two. Welcome, Silverliners, to the wonderful world of Wednesday Wham. I'm your host, Dean Zachary, and I'm joined tonight by our standard crew, minus one, but we're gonna push through and make it happen anyway. We have Barbara J. Kelberg, the Empress of the Inks, Rob Davis, the Paragon of Pencils, both wizards of wordplay. We have Barbara J. Kelberg.
Someone's watching.
Yeah, that's me. I thought I had it muted.
Up.
Wow. No worries. We also have our Wizards of Wordplay, Rory Boyle and Scott Wakefield. Welcome, everyone. We have a really special show tonight. We also want to give special thanks to Comic Madness Network, who is helping us reach a much wider audience than ever before, which means, hey, we got to be on our A game, kids. So no pressure or anything. But
what about a B plus?
B plus.
Where you said kick your feet up kind of night.
See if we can skate through here.
Nice glass of rosé, kick your feet up. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah, just kicking back, just
just some smooth jazz,
just rambling on.
Yeah. Tonight
we're going to talk about
playing all the hits for you.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Wolfman Rob
been on radio before, I can tell.
Wolfman Jack. He would fit right into tonight's.
Would he not?
Yes.
Especially thematically tonight. We're talking about comics and local legends, keeping with our Halloween theme here for October. We're going to talk a little bit about regional legends, local legends from our necks of the woods.
All from the tri-state area.
Yeah, which ones would be
the tri-state area?
Which ones would make great comics or just great stories in general? Scott, I know you're itching to tell us about the tri-state area local legends. So get us started tonight.
Oh my goodness, you don't want me to get started. Everybody else can just mute. Everyone, please mute your mics. I'll be talking until about 9:45 Eastern.
I'll take the next 2 hours after that.
Wow.
Okay. I will get the ball rolling. And
please
I will take a deep breath and
get the pumpkin rolling.
Interject.
Okay.
Get the pumpkin rolling.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow. Not bad.
So if we're going to talk local legends, I would like everybody to get out your gazetteer or atlas, please, or your globe, and spin it around till you find the Atlantic Ocean, and then go down to New York City, and that's not where I live. Then go up and over towards Lake Erie and Lake Ontario toward Buffalo. That's where I live. In Western New York is called by there's the Seneca and Iroquois. And forgive me if I mix anything up. I apologize. It's just my ignorance. There's a term they use called the Western Door, the Western Gate, and it is a spiritual term for tribal beliefs and movement of spirits between the other world and here. And so we have a whole realm of native lore for Western New York. I mean, specifically like Finger Lakes and up through to Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, which is really cool. And Lake Ontario has a sea monster, and the Niagara River has a sea monster. And we've got big feats and
tons of big feet,
associated Sasquatches in various forms. We have giants and records of giants, and so many cool goblins and beasties. We also have a little bit of, and I'm going to tie it into Steam Patriots. We've got a little bit of Revolutionary War connection with Old Fort Niagara, which is at the base of the Niagara River. A beautiful spot. I would recommend visiting it if you want to be on a magical history tour. Go see Fort Niagara.
Roll up for the history tour.
I knew that's coming.
Very nice.
Yep, thank you. And there's a really cool story of an actual musician, and I've read different accounts and how he was either the fort musician or a local musician that was kind of there, entertaining, but he had a little too much of the sauce. So a lot of stories like this though do involve a little too much of the sauce, and then someone
that's all good stories.
This amazing tale that gets recorded in legend. And he was put in the Hoisington, the clink, the clanger, he was locked up in the fort and came out he was raising such a ruckus, such a rumpus that the jailers let him out, and he was insistent that a hobgoblin had given him the tune that he then immediately penned. His last name, John Carroll. I'm gonna have to look him up again. But the tune is now. It was recently it was unearthed and was performed at the fort. But yes, the tune was given to him by a hobgoblin in the jail cell. And that
is the rumor true that Ozzy Osbourne also knew that tune earlier in his career? I'm not real sure. Just throwing that out there.
I'm
throwing it out there. You know?
I'm wondering what the difference between goblin and hobgoblin.
What fort is this?
Old Fort Niagara.
All right, so it's a Niagara hobgoblin.
That's that works for me.
Niagara.
Oh, Rory, you just cut out. The spirits are stopping you from speaking. I didn't. You were frozen in like a
time.
Oh wow!
From my screen at least.
Oh man!
The Niagara hobgoblin.
Maybe we'll get Nick Fury to find him.
We're going to end up channeling spirits here in a minute if we keep this up. Go ahead.
I gleaned a lot of my local lore over the years. We have a local mythology and cryptids and mystery legend keeper here. His name is Mason Winfield. I'm going to give him a shout out because I've got a stack of his books, and he has a great online presence. He gives a lot of history tours, and he does all the local lore. Mason Winfield, if you want to look him up, he's got great books about all the spookies and scaries for New York and the Great Lakes region. So that's just one of them. This hobgoblin, and he described, Rory, a hobgoblin as a goblin, only hobbier.
Okay. Everything up, right?
That's how you know
full,
it's a hob.
Full hob.
Okay.
Full hob.
Okay.
Full hob.
Not half hob.
Just partly. You're right.
But I love these stories.
These are diminutive, smaller creatures about the size of halflings or dwarves. Or
I think that is a general hobgoblin. And a hobgoblin is a very European creepy that made its way over here. Either in reality, I think it hung on to the bottom of a boat. Sure. Or in the
invasive species.
Yes, very much so.
It's pushing out the native goblins.
It really is.
Invasive hobgoblin. It has to be stamped out.
This is good.
That'll be my master's environmental study of.
There you go, Rory.
So we're going to have a comic
statement. Now you have it.
Invasive mythology.
We're going to have a comic book called Hobgoblin.
I like that.
Hobgoblin.
That's awesome.
I think Hobgoblin might be. Is Green Goblin and Hobgoblin
sounds familiar somehow?
Yeah,
I think it sounds familiar.
No one will remember.
It's taken. So I will cede for a moment. I just wanted to prime the pump because there's lots of cool local stories that
is awesome. That is
really
awesome.
like.
That's the type of thing we're looking for. We're talking about cryptids. They can be of any form, but we're going to stick mostly to the cryptids, the Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Skunk Ape, the Boggy Creek Monster, and even in my neck of the woods, which is Arkansas, sometimes known as Arkansas, we also have something called, believe it or not, a Water Panther. So, we've got all kinds of...
I've heard of that.
Yeah, you've heard of the Water Panther, huh?
I have too.
It's kind of a were-panther that is known for its blood-curdling scream, which if you hear it, you're too close and you need to run away.
That's very Skinwalker.
If you hear it, it's too late.
You just have to run. Just run in any direction.
So, Barb, I know you have prepared well as always for this broadcast. So I want you to jump in and kind of share some lore from the Wisconsin area, and catch us up.
I know what you're talking about. Well,
yep. And you can help me out here, Dean.
Sure.
This is not
as always. I'll be happy to add you to the. Wow.
Yeah, hang on. That's a different one.
Okay. All right. Scroll through whatever you need to.
These are personal photos?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
For vacation.
Okay.
Whoa.
This is the Beast of Bray Road.
Excellent. I was hoping.
Yes. Dean just watched a documentary on it. He's totally sold.
Yes.
I've
seen that one too.
So good.
Yep, that's a good one.
Indeed. Roland Loup-Garou, which is the French name for that.
Yeah, which is in the book Sirens that I'm coloring.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about the Beast of
Bray Road. Well, he has been around for quite some time, and people absolutely swear by this legend. He's down in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. By the way, I live in Wisconsin, so we have got our fair share of Wendigos, and Bigfooteds.
Yeah, big feet.
Yeah, big feet. Yes, yes. We have tons and tons and tons of big feets and Wendigos. But probably the most famous beast in Wisconsin is the beast of Bray Road. Bray Road happens to be just an ordinary road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. This is Bray Road.
She drove it last night.
No. And here's another a stretch of Bray Road. And more than one person, in fact, multiple people who live around Elkhorn swear that they have seen this beast. It's a very muscular beast, usually roams at night. Yep, very ripped. You can catch him in your headlights.
That werewolf's got a 12-pack.
He'll run across the road in front of your car. One farmer said that they were sitting out one summer evening, and his dogs were going crazy, and he looked into the cornfield or the weeds next to the cornfield, and he could see eyes glaring out. You know how animals have luminescent eyes.
Yes, right.
And he thought, well, it was just another dog or a coon or something like that. But then it rose up and stood on 2 feet and then ran away. Once one person, finally admitted, no, I'm not crazy. I absolutely saw it. And then another person would come forward, and another person is like, well, I didn't want to say anything because everybody would tell me I'm crazy. But I've seen the beast as well. And
wasn't one a deputy that came forward and said,
yes. Absolutely. A deputy, an animal control person has come forward. Do you want to say, add anything? You just watched a documentary on this, Dean.
They're not only sightings, but there are people who have had the beast run beside their vehicle at full speed.
Just to show off.
Just to show them off and go, look, I can outrun you guys. You're slow folks, whatever. You think I'm just a dog, watch this. Greyhounds eat your heart out. But what was amazing to me was not only the validity and just the genuine nature of the reporting, but also the fact that they were consistent. They all seemed like people who weren't going to make up stories, and they described pretty much the same creature. So we are to assume that there's a werewolf
with a consistent behavior pattern.
Yes, indeed.
The Wisconsin werewolf, and people have also found like half-consumed carcasses of deer that are basically ripped in half or chomped in half along this stretch of road.
The name of the documentary, by the way, Calculus, is The Beast of Bray Road, and I believe it's on Amazon. Easily.
It's B-R-E-I or E-Y. I'm sorry, B-R-E-Y.
Okay.
Bray Road, Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
And again, because of the corroboration and the wide reporting on this, we consider it's something. I mean, whether it's a werewolf or not, we don't know, but certainly some sort of cryptid. Let's move to Rory for a moment here. Rory, you said that you had some cryptids you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So I'm from Ohio, which is the Ohio country, and we were rife with Indian lore. We've got a lot of burial mounds around us. Serpent mounds. The mound builders. A lot of which haven't been excavated or exhumed for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And some of the tales say that there are giants buried under them, which is a common theme with Native Americans. We have the usual, like I'm in the southeastern part of Ohio, like right on the cusp of Appalachia. We're in the foothills. So we get the usual big feats.
Yeah.
We also have in the more watery areas, like the lake districts or Loveland, moist zones. It's a heavy moist area.
Zone.
And there's been consistent reports. Moist lands.
Moist lands. Okay. Oh, man.
Moisters.
So
professional broadcasters. Wow, are we?
Yeah, we're not.
We'll leave it to you guys.
We're working on it.
Anyway, go ahead.
Steep learning curve. So in the moisture areas, we've had several accounts since the 1800s to today about giant frogs. like 4 foot tall frogs.
Seriously.
Oh,
Seriously.
Seriously.
And newspapers throughout the area have like constantly reported on it.
We've
also had
indeed
reptilian-like animals that would stand up, very like Black Lagoon.
Sure.
Like
Oh,
described
wow.
that.
Okay.
Big feet. Since we're in the Appalachians,
smash everything, right?
Yeah.
I could see Harryhausen just going to town on.
So
Super
what
slow.
were these corroborated, Rory, by I mean, obviously folklore and tall tales and so on, but any modern corroboration of this that you know of?
Modern ends around 1970s.
Okay, that's modern enough for monsters. Yeah.
And of course, we're on a big lake. I mean, I'm from Cleveland, and we've got Lake Erie up there, and we have every large body of water has a monster. So Bessie is the monster of Lake Erie, and the current, not NHL team, but like whatever the next level down is the Lake Erie Monsters, because there's a lot of recorded.
Also, a delicious beer by the Great Lakes Brewing Company. Lake Erie Monster.
Yes. It's amazing.
Nice plug. They're paying you well, right, Scott?
Brought to you by Great Lakes Brewing Company.
Very nice.
And going back to your mounds, I gotta push my old stomping grounds, Moundsville, West Virginia, near the penitentiary. There's something. It's like the tallest mound or something like that in Moundsville. Okay. It's really cool. If you like that sort of low key history. Oh my goodness.
Look who's joined us.
Speaking of low key,
the man.
Speaking of
cryptids,
mysterious
Mr. Aaron, I like to hang out in non-focus areas. Humphreys.
Welcome, Aaron. Good to have you, my friend. We're just getting started with our tales of local lore and cryptids. I'm sure there's some up in your neck of the woods that you can share with us.
Bigfoot. I think that's the only one.
The Bigfoot. Yeah. The standard.
And I actually have a couple of stories from Missouri that I didn't prepare for this because I wasn't sure it was going to be here. But now that you bring them up,
we'll
brought back some memories.
Tell us some tales, my friend.
There's the spook lights.
Okay.
In Joplin, Missouri. I know that it talks about the stories usually come from couples who've gone out, on the edge of the woods to spark. And they see these floating lights that come toward them and kind of what up, Charles?
What up, Charles?
And they have investigated them, and no one can figure out exactly what they are. At one point, they thought maybe they were lights from the interstate highway that was over the hill, but that didn't pan out. But it's almost like UFOs or ghostly figures are coming toward the couple that are sitting there, doing their little sparking, and plus, so that one's been around for quite a while.
Good luck.
I think that actually started even before cars were around. So that's why they're wondering why would those lights suddenly be reflected into this area well before cars were out in that area. But there are also tales about Lake of the Ozarks, which is this man-made lake in the middle of the state that has, and it's dammed, and the electricity is generated. Hydroelectric power is generated.
It's dammed, all right.
It is dammed. It's sent to, and that electricity is sent to St. Louis because they needed consumption. It was built in the 1920s into the 30s.
Okay.
And there are rumors that there are giant catfish right next to the dam that can swallow a man.
So not good for noodling.
No,
not at all.
No, I even know what noodling is.
I do too.
The crap out of me.
So wait, are you saying that in Missouri, as some people call it,
you
like that?
Yeah.
That's sort of
we can
local
get into
phrase.
that argument if you like.
Them's fighting words.
In Missouri, there are kaiju. There are giant catfish. Giant sea creatures that. Do they ever
Well,
ride?
they aren't sea creatures. They'd be freshwater catfish.
Okay.
And they're just they've been next to the dam and they swim in in the water as it goes through the dam, and they consume all the food that comes through them, and they're just laying there swimming against the current there, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, no one's ever actually seen one that, of course, the water is pretty deep right there, and it's very muddy. It's kind of greenish brown, so you can't actually see it. But people have reported when they did examine the dam to do repairs or to check on it, that they actually saw them. So out of the corner of your eye, you see this dark shape coming by, and it was huge. So that's it. Plus, we also have our own version of Sasquatch called Momo, the Missouri Monster.
Momo.
He sounds lovable.
Momo, the
Sounds little Momo.
Do not attempt to hug him.
Yeah.
But the last time I heard any stories about him was probably the 1990s. I haven't heard anything about him since then. But there was a rash of Sasquatch and Bigfoot sightings all across the country, and I think there were people here in Missouri that wanted to get in on the fun. And started out, and it brought back Momo, the Missouri Monster, for all that. But I haven't heard much about him since. But so Missouri has them too.
Yes,
yeah, we have a light colored, either white or beige Bigfoot that I read about a 1999 account spotted two women at high school at the time. They were on a snowy night driving, and a big beige. Rangy beast keeping pace with the cars.
Well, blondes have more fun.
But was it beige or was it buff?
Oh, that's good.
You gotta
Bigfoot's got a
get the description right here. That's interesting because usually they're either dark coated or they're like the Yeti version, which is of course white and they're just too snowy areas.
You get snow here.
They can license.
Yeah,
they got a summer coat, winter coat.
Hey, they have fashion sense too, so they just adjust.
Well, he was wearing white though in the winter. I don't know about this. Aren't you supposed to not wear that after Labor Day?
After Labor Day, that's right.
Big feet.
There's your comic series right there.
There's your comic series.
New beauty standard.
Wow, it's just it's amazing here.
Rory,
green.
Rory, you mentioned the Lake Erie monster. Yeah, Lake Ontario has a serpent. The native name for it is Gassiendietha.
Common spelling.
Kingsty from Kingston. That's on the other. That's in Canada.
Yeah.
With sightings, there's pre-Columbus sightings of it, and then early fur traders along the lakes spotted seeing a 30-foot snake in 1817. A ship spotted it at 1 foot in diameter, 30-foot snake, and then 20 to 30 feet. And then there's an 1833 account. Captain Kellogg was aboard the Polythermos. That is multi-thermoses. That's what it stands for. He spied a 175-foot blue serpent on his way to Kingston Harbor. And then
that's amazing.
Close to me, Olcott, New York is north of me. 1872, city residents of Olcott witnessed a, quote, bellowing monster leap 50 feet out of the water before making its way northward out of sight. And then some of them even claimed that it was flying and spewing flames. So I think the story got a little just 175 foot. But wait,
there may have been some alcohol involved.
Exactly.
Well, that's interesting because I was looking up Lake Erie stuff. There was sea serpents in the 1890s. Cataloged in Lake Erie.
Yeah, they got them on the Erie Canal as well. They say there's Erie Canal. I feel like would be hard to hide in because it's not. It's only. I mean, it's like 30 feet deep. So, but what do we? This one's Nessie. This one's Barb.
Is that Nessie?
Barb? Yeah, that is actually Peppy, the Lake Pepin monster here in Wisconsin. We have lots and lots of lakes up here. We have the Devil's Lake monster. We have Bozo, the sea serpent of Lake Mendota. This happens to be. It's spelled a little differently. But this is Peppy, the monster of Lake Pepin. We have a lot of Native American legends up here, and a lot of them also involve lake monsters. So I wanted to show you my lake monster.
Excellent. I sent you a earlier, Barb. If you can bring that up, I'll describe that for the folks. Ah, yes. As big as a boxcar and gray all over with fins across between. They say it's a cross between Bigfoot and a sea serpent or a puma. Very odd creature in the White River near Newport, Arkansas, which is up in the north central area of the state. And this particular creature has a very wicked cry and was seen quite a bit in the 70s, especially, but even a bit more recently than that. That's one of them. And then I don't know if a lot of you guys remember a B movie that was an early precursor to the monster documentary movies about Bigfoot. It was called The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
That also took place in Arkansas. And it's a pseudo-documentary film, not really, but about some folks living out in the country who are terrorized by a Sasquatch. So we
have a story about that.
Yes, pretty scary.
I saw that when we were teenagers, and back, this is in the 70s when The Legend of Boggy Creek was actually looked pretty terrifying. And if you look at it now, it's such a cheesy movie, but back then it was terrifying.
Fun.
And we went to see it at our local theater, my sister, my brother, and I. And we came out, and it was very, very foggy. And we lived in the country, and we were going home, and my brother, being a brother, yes. Yeah. He stopped on the bridge of a little creek not far from our home, and he opened his doors and he goes, "Here, Buggy, 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 Buggy." And my sister and I are just losing our shit in the backseat. We're screaming, and he's holding the door open. He's like, "Close the door!"
Oh,
and
gosh.
I will always.
That's a good brother.
I will forever remember The Legend of Boggy Creek for that very reason.
The particular poster for that was very creepy. If you remember it, Barb, I just sent you a visual if you received it there, but it showed the typical silhouette of the Sasquatch kind of wading through some shallow water, backlit by what looks like a foggy sunset. Oh, yeah. Right? So, I mean, just that image there, you're like, I don't want to be anywhere near that, whatever that is. But the movie itself being a typical B movie from that era, but it still managed to, scare us.
Scare a little living daylights out of me.
He's just drunk.
Yeah, he just can't really keep his balance there in that big rush of current. So tell us a little bit about, would you ever find comics that cover this material? I've actually done some research and found some Mothman comic books. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Mothman.
Oh yeah,
legend at all. But that's
a West Virginia, Ohio Valley.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, we got that.
Point Pleasant. And supposedly the appearances increase almost as an omen or a harbinger of
the catastrophe or something.
Right before something terrible is going to happen, and there was a collapse of a bridge and so on. But the movie was pretty well done. It came out, I guess, a decade and a half ago or so. It had a creepiness to it. It kept the Mothman less of a monster, more of this sort of dimensional being that was warning people of things in its own way. And it never really showed us, a creature per se. But if you've ever seen the sculpture of the Mothman that they have there, it's actually a pretty cool looking thing. I'll see if I can bring that up as well. But back to my point, though, would these creatures work as comic books? What do you think? Scott, tell us a little bit about adapting some of this local legend and lore. Would they work as comic books, and would you do it as a sort of a documentary sort of thing? Or would you just tell a typical standard story about them? How would you?
That's a good question. Because I'm chewing on a little horror idea.
Indeed.
For either like a one-off, I don't know. But I think they're great material. And we've had this group has had the conversation too about taking something that exists and using it as with the pros, or you've immediately got your. I mean, you don't have to explain it really. Your audience can know it. And so I think it'd be it's great material. And then I don't see anything wrong with adapting it for your own story world. For me, I don't know. I think I like both ideas. The idea of keeping it a documentary style and making it realistic. I don't know. That's not quite the right word, but an investigative story. But also they just make great monsters. So I've not given a lot of thought to monster stories. It's not been I love them, and so I don't know why I haven't thought more about writing them. But this one that's percolating, I think would be a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to throw in the Wendigo. Because that
brilliant.
It can control minds, and my story will take place in the snowy, very, very far north.
Well, clarify for us before we go there. Calculus says, didn't Mothman's name originally come from Detective Comics? I'm not sure whether that's where it came from, but I do remember.
Yeah, I thought it was a local paper.
We've got our demon in the Silverline universe, Tommy says, and he's right. We certainly do have a misunderstood character called the Demon, which is he's kind of a fun guy that's a veterinarian, and it's not too scary, but looks very scary.
Yep, he has his own book, but he shows up in Cat and Mouse as well.
Yes, he does indeed. He does indeed. Yep. So you were saying, Scott, that you would want to bring the character into an already existing story rather than approach it on its own as a single story, a cryptid.
Oh no, I don't. I think for me, I would want to create something new. And have the beast be the monster within it. What's that, Barb?
An original beast that.
No. I think I like the idea of if you've got an existing legend and lore. It's a great story world to put your fictional characters in that they have to live in, and this monster is either the main antagonist or maybe always on the periphery. I like stuff left to the imagination, because I don't like, so in the horror genre with movies especially, I don't like the in your face. I don't like the blood and guts and gore. Not that I'm scared of it, just doesn't do anything for me. Right. Movies really, like the Blair Witch Project. That movie freaked me out, and when I saw it in the theater. I had read about it, that movie's a great study in storytelling, having no budget,
low budget,
transmedia storytelling and marketing,
advanced marketing,
exactly,
advanced buzz creation through social media, and arguably the first social media created.
They didn't. The internet was still relatively new in its ubiquitousness, so they did a really great job. But I read a little about it, so I knew about it. I took my wife my then girlfriend at the time, and she had never even heard of it, never even knew it existed. She had to she's like in the theater, is this real? Because this can't be. But this is this, and that movie for me I think it stands the test of time. Like I know what's coming now, but that there are scenes from that movie that are seared into my psyche. Yes, because you never really see what's out there. It's always on the periphery. So I like those stories where there's things that really you're just left wondering. There's that tension all the time. Yes.
They also do a really, really great marketing strategy on that, which has been done before and been used before, but not quite in the same way. Where they started a rumor where people were screaming and fainting in the theater, and of course that just makes every teenager in the world want to go do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And really, creating an atmosphere around the creature quite often is the difference between a poorly created comic or movie or a well done movie. If you show it too much, it loses something.
Right. In a build up with storytelling, it's the same as just foreshadowing.
Absolutely.
And any important thing.
What the reader gets, or reader or viewer imagines in their own mind. Is actually more powerful and scary if it's not completely defined. That way they interpret it, whatever scares them the most. So that's the strength of doing it.
And it saves on special effects.
Which is true. Blair Witch Project,
whether
was it like
intended or not
still,
intended. Yeah.
Well,
it's still excellent story.
Rory, you said
when you can pull that off.
You said Jaws, right? Didn't that thing break? That's why you hardly ever see it.
That's why they didn't use it much, but it was more effective that way.
And the
I
music,
will never get that song out of my head. I had nightmares for years. Because I went and saw it 2 weeks before I went to Florida on spring break, and I was stupid.
Well, just so you know that why those movies that are documentary style do well, the Blair Witch Project, according to the intranets, cost between 200 and 500 grand, and it made 248 million.
Yes, they take nothing to make.
So I mean, those and just coincidentally, it being October and scary movies being prevalent on all the streaming platforms, I watched a film last night called, Horror in the High Desert, and they used the same premise of Blair Witch, but in this case, they borrow a lot from the Citizen Kane approach in terms of interviewing people who knew the subject of the film. It's about a hiker and a survivalist who goes missing. And they begin with these extensive interviews of the hiker's sister, the hiker's roommate, a local media individual talking about the hiker and her exposure to him and what his personality was like. Then you get a few little teases of his own home videos that he's made while he's in the deep, high desert of Nevada. And he likes to push the boundaries and get a little further than anyone's ever gone. And lo and behold, he has a big following on social media. And they can't find him, but they slowly start discovering things like his truck, right? And there's no money missing in his truck, but there are fingerprints in the truck and barefoot footprints around the truck. And so everyone's like, well, what is that about? And then you find out that he reported on his social media that he found an abandoned cabin, a spooky cabin where no one should be. And there were weird noises around it and a feeling of doom around it. And lo and behold, as we get to Act 3, they find the footage on his cam. I won't tell you how they find it because it's kind of a cool surprise.
Where is that?
We are treated to the last things he saw as before he died, and it is very Blair Witch. But again, these items taken on their own are not very scary at all, but how they're put together and the build up to the ending is really spooky. And it's called, again, Horror in the High Desert.
What streaming services?
I believe it's Amazon Prime.
Okay,
so check it out.
Okay.
But anyway, that being said,
desert.
you can do the same thing with comic books in terms of really writing the environment, writing the supporting cast, and giving glimpses of the cryptid, the monster, whatever it is, and then only showing it there at the end would work tremendously well. It worked really well for Alien. I think still that first movie works so well because we rarely see the alien, but just a few times. So again, to Rob's point, tip of the iceberg approach with monsters, just really show them briefly, very quickly in the shadows, how they move and so on.
Or just little bits and pieces of them, like a claw.
You want to do a big reveal at the end, that's cool. Just don't keep it on screen too long. Some of that works well.
We haven't asked Aaron if he's got any cryptids in his area.
I said Bigfoot.
Well,
I think that's the only.
Does I know it's stretching a bit far Pacific Northwest because I was up in Ketchikan and that's a long ways away, but there is a bit of that stretch of the Tlingit and the Raven lore and the Kushtaka.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there probably are some Native American folklore, but I'm not aware of it. Yeah, I was thinking like Native American cryptids or something. There might be something, but I have not seen it or researched it. Bigfoot's usually the one we see the most.
What about the Wendigo? I know that's
we got plenty of those here.
That's a prevalent lore.
Is that one of the ones up here
in the Northwest? Well,
yeah, they're
pretty.
Is it okay?
It's like it's Bigfootish.
I think it's a little different.
It's a little different. It's more of a a creature that can
cursed
psychologically mimic individuals that are close to its impending victim.
Okay, it's
in
not
order
what I
to,
thought it would. That's not what I thought. Okay,
yeah, and
I have it wrong.
brings its prey in through mimicry, voices, and subterfuge, and consumes the prey, and then gains the voice and some of the characteristics of its prey.
That's like the salt creature in the Star Trek episode.
Yes, a little bit like
what is it, Man Trap? I think it's called.
One of my favorite Star Trek episodes.
The Christgau do similar. They're shaped. A lot of they're shapeshifters. I think all the native, it seems like every native lore has a shapeshifter.
Changeling,
And
Tim might know more. I don't know. I'd be curious to ask him.
Yeah, I think he's into that sort of stuff. The Christgau will mimic a deceased relative.
Yes,
and call you in, and then I don't know if it's always water, but they'll drown you, and then you become one of them. I told my Christgau Bigfoot story in Alaska, talking about Rob and Dean, the horror in your mind.
Yes.
So we're north of Ketchikan. I was stationed in Ketchikan, and it's beautiful. If you can ever go up there, again, another place highly recommended. North of Ketchikan is Helm Bay. And the Forest Service keeps cabins all over. I mean, they're all over, and you can rent them. You can go online and you can rent them if the Forest Service is not using them, and they use them a couple times a year. So they're real cheap. So we lived on a boat. We took our boat up there, and it's you're like, you don't have to go far down up there to be in the middle of nowhere, and it's so cool. So we took our boat. It's up this bay, this cove, way in, and they have a dock that floats, and it's attached to pilings. So you have to dock your big boat and take a dinghy, a rowboat, your small boat into shore, and there's a cabin. So we have this dinghy with oars, and the tides will go 10, 12, 15, 18 feet.
Oh, yeah. Insane.
So we drag, it's a fiberglass boat. We drag it way up into the way above the high water mark, and I take the wooden oars, leave them in the oar locks with the pins, and put the paddles down in the boat like you do with a rowboat, right?
Right.
So we spend the night. We have a great evening. Next day we hike around, and it's me and my kids and my 9-month pregnant wife, and we're getting ready to go back out to our big boat. And I walk down to the dinghy, and one of the oars is missing. It's a 8-foot piece of wood, 6-foot piece of wood. Like, where did it go? And
it didn't just blow out with the wind.
Exactly. No, it's a wooden oar with a brass pin. It doesn't, it's not locked in, but and so that first thought was, the water came up and floated. No, because if the water came up, it would have floated the boat away. So one is there, one's gone. And so I just did a kind of spiral walk around and around, nowhere, anywhere. And so then, of course, the gears start turning. Is someone messing with me? Did somebody show up? We would have heard an engine. We would have heard another boat show up. So I do that, like, is someone who's watching me? So then we have to think about, I have to go out to our boat, and all the movie scenes are playing in my head. We have one radio, one 45 caliber pistol.
Oh yeah.
Which one do I give to my wife and the kids? And I said, I'm going to leave the radio and the gun with you. I'm going to go out to our boat, and our boat has a radio. If there's a problem, call me on the radio. So I have to take our dinghy with one.
The script writes itself right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm 40, 50 yards or offshore, and and then nothing happened. But it's just that it was so strange. So I told this story when we got back, and there's a guy. He's like, Bigfoot. Bigfoot. He said they love stealing axes. The axe handles, and they knock the. I'm like, right? He said they like so. But if you're a Bigfoot, why don't you just grab a stick and knock it on a tree? Why do you have to steal an axe handle because you live in the woods?
Because it's different.
They're different.
They're just a bunch of
kleptos.
I have no idea, but it's just
terror.
It was such a weird moment because I can't figure it out. Where did it go? And it was too big for our dog to grab. Our dog would not have, and she doesn't do that. So very strange, very strange. So that's my
some other creature may have come by and grabbed it.
Yeah, got that one.
No clue.
You guys undoubtedly are familiar with the Japanese ghost creature that we see a lot in movies ever since The Ring came out. The Onryu, the vengeful ghost, usually that's died in some tragic way before their time, very often personified as a young girl wearing white with long, stringy black hair and so on. It's a very common visual. The Grudge played to that as well. And I think it's interesting, the cultural influence of Japan, not only in comic books and manga, but also in our horror field, because before, most of our horror has either come from the ancestry of our own ethnic cultures before we came to this country, Native American cultures, indigenous to the country, but now, Japanese culture becoming more prevalent and more and fascinating. Have any of you guys ever seen or heard of anything in local lore that is similar to the vengeful water spirit that we see so often connected to water in films like The Ring? Anybody have that near any of their folklore in any of their regions?
All our water monsters seem to be just monsters that.
Yeah, because there's also there's the legend of the hag, right? That's usually
the water hag,
and those tend to be similar to that. Particular Japanese.
Not so much over here.
No, you don't have that. That's interesting.
Moving from
I can think of.
To the incorporeal, we do have legends of lights, and I was I don't know if it's similar to Rob, that you were saying they're kind of spark lights. These we have the orbs,
the spook lights.
There's
we've got orbs.
Native legends of following them, and I've heard a couple. I don't know if that's more prevalent, but the stories I've heard is children following them and going off into the woods, being gone for days, coming back just fine with no memory of it, but being able to speak the native tongue that is not spoken anymore fluently. That's crazy. We got Klepto Bigfoot. I like
Klepto
Bigfoot. The misadventures of Klepto Bigfoot. Stop stealing! Put that back.
Yes.
Klepto AA.
Yokai are fascinating, and he also says like wisp. Which are also fascinating. This particular image you found online is a Wendigo, particularly one from early Supernatural episode. I think it was like the second one in season.
Yes, and they did a really good job with that. They left a lot of it in shadow and just gave you one brief glimpse. And this is the brief glimpse.
Yeah, this is the brief glimpse you got. And the rest of it is just really, you just see him in shadow, edge lit, and so on. And again, best way to handle creatures like that. Just really spooky. And then wanted to share
the Mothman.
The statue of Mothman at Point Pleasant. Its descriptions vary, but primarily that's what it looks like, with glowing red eyes. And much like the Beast of Bray Road from earlier in the broadcast, the consistency of reports of seeing the Mothman, of it chasing vehicles at full speed, and just literally terrorizing drivers and people, along with the harbinger of doom qualities, make it, an enduring folklore legend. And there are a lot of actual Mothman comic books, believe it or not, and Bigfoot comic books
really
out there. Yes, strangely enough.
This is the Rhinelander
where the wild things live.
Hodag.
The
Hodag. Yep.
Welcome, Brent. Brent is not a Hodag. Brent is a creator, writer. Okay,
that's yet to be confirmed.
He's joining us tonight. We're just reviewing folklore and so on. We're going to get to one of your folklore stories, if you have one. Hopefully you do. But tell us more about the Hodag here, Barb. What's up?
Apparently it runs around in the woods around Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It's just it's
Pops
it's
Van Zandt is aware of it. Yeah.
Oh yay, Pops! And
Pops
I'm also gonna show you. This is Holy Hill in Wisconsin, and I have actually been here. We went last year. Here's another view of it.
Okay, tell us a little bit about its history.
Okay, well, it's a basilica that was built a long time ago on Holy Hill here in southern Wisconsin. Go back to this one. And it has numerous legends surrounding it. It's got the Hermit of Holy Hill, a story about a hermit that was very, very hard to find, but you could run across him in the woods. And I have been in those woods. They're kind of spooky.
Ooh, nice.
That apparently he murdered his girlfriend in a jealous rage, and he felt so bad about it that he fled to the monastery, and he lived in a hut around there for many, many years. And you could occasionally run into him if you were out hiking in the woods around Holy Hill. They have some paths, and there's also the legend of the bear wolf out in Holy Hill. Apparently, a animal control guy was out picking up roadkill one time, and he threw this carcass of a deer into his truck, and he's got this little lift on the back of his truck that would help lift the carcass of the deer. And he gets back in the cab of the truck, and before he could activate the lift, something grabbed hold of that deer and ripped it out of the back of his truck.
Ooh.
And it took the deer and the lift off of the truck, and he floored it and got out of there.
Wow.
And he later showed people the claw marks on his truck, and he went back to try to see if he could find the lift. He never did find the lift. So the deer and the lift was completely gone.
That's scary.
Then there's also the Goat Man of Hog's Back Road, which was one of the very windy roads that go up to Holy Hill. You guys, you can visit Holy Hill. It's beautiful, but yeah, it's a little bit on the
spooky side.
I can imagine at night, especially. It's spooky.
Yeah.
Brent, what about you, my friend? Any folklore in your neck of the woods or somewhere where you've lived before that's haunting and spooky and inspiring?
You know, not really. Well, let me back up. Okay, so
Florida man.
I've lived a bunch of places, and one of the negatives of growing up in a military family is you don't live long enough to really bond with a place. Partly because you know you're leaving in 2 years or 3 years. And so now we'll say this. I've lived in Florida here since 99. And when you see it from the air, it's really pretty wild because the whole place just looks green, which means there's forests everywhere. And that actually inspired me to write a short story about some found footage. It was one of the first short stories I wrote when I started thinking about it, was about this sheriff in a small Florida town and the fact that these hikers went missing, and then one of them reappeared with camcorder footage that seemed really strange. And the thing that kept coming back to me was the idea that in Florida, you can't, there's not really any mountains. You can't look up into something. It's all so flat.
Swamps. There's lots of swamps,
which means the whole state is basically one big hiding place for something. And
interesting.
I did some research on some of the Indian tribes and the area, and I can't remember exactly what I found out, but there was, a lot of interesting stuff that folklore could spin out of disappearances, and I think the whole tribe disappeared, and so I kind of played with that idea that maybe they went underground or something like that. So, I made up some stuff. I guess that's basically what I'm getting around to.
Well, with all the swampland there, you got to have some, swamp lights, some creatures. Mm-hmm. Certainly a skunk ape, the southern version of the Sasquatch. There's all sorts of, giant gators certainly have to be down there and being witnessed there. Something, but certainly, aren't there UFO stories down in Florida as well? Have you had any or heard of any down there?
I haven't really.
Okay.
I wrote a story about how Goofy turned out to be a homicidal maniac once.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of folklore.
Real?
Yeah, it's kind of odd folklore. We got bored as teenagers at Disney World one night and decided, what if a serial killer dressed as Mickey started, sabotaging all the rides after dark.
Ooh.
And it was that was kind of along those lines of,
That's
like
good.
he'd be the serial killer too. Yeah. So, and he would whistle, fun little childish little,
Whistle up while you
You'd see a shadow of a giant pair of shears cutting a rope to one of the rides. But anyway, yeah, just start turning some scary things into things that aren't naturally scary can be fun as well. Phil Ann says, haha, Phil Man, yes, I've been called a cryptid before. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of fun commentary here. What about the dog man, Phil? Does anybody have a dog man story? I know somebody mentioned the goat man. Was that you, Barb?
That was me.
Yeah.
Okay.
The goat man of Holy Hill.
Okay, so
Hogsback Road.
the goat man, is it similar to a werewolf? In other words, it's a humanoid with a goat head sort of a thing?
Yep. Cloven hooves.
Uh-huh.
The backwards legs.
Nice.
With a human body on the top half, but he has horns. Yes.
Interesting. And
Yeah,
no origin.
Ohio has one too.
No origin to. Well, look at this. I think I have a cryptid in my room. Pardon me. Come here, cryptid.
I don't even know what that
Cryptid. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a good time to introduce you to the cryptid. This is the fearsome snow fox called Boo. She is the bane of all squirrels in my yard. And
is that blood on her lips?
Indeed, it is. A squirrel is gone. Another squirrel is gone. Good girl, Boo. Good girl.
You don't have a lot of young kids in your neighborhood, do you?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
not anymore. Yeah, she when Daddy's down in the basement studio too long, Boo likes to join in and listen to what goes on down here. But yes,
her next move.
The snow,
good name for this
dog.
Snow dog.
The
snow dog.
So it's a fawn. Calculus is referencing the goat man.
Yes. Pretty much.
So the fawn. That is a very common European
satyr, isn't it?
And a satyr.
A satyr is another form.
Yes, it's another form. Any manga there, Aaron, that brings out folklore from Japan that comes to mind? I always like getting strange creatures from there. You have the fox.
The kitsune?
With the multi tails and so on.
That's mostly a samurai. Seen mostly in samurai type tales, the kitsune.
What's their story in general? What's their legend?
I'm not sure. I think they're not tricksters. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look up and read.
I think every single society or people on Earth have got their version of the trickster.
Yeah, absolutely. The Native.
If it is one, it's more of a
coyote.
Yeah.
It's more of a benevolent one that helps you rather than does mean things to you.
I don't know where he got it, but my father, who's Swedish, used to say we had eepers in the wall.
Oh,
when we were growing up. Yeah, we had eepers, EEPERs.
Okay.
Eepers. He's like, what happened to my shoes? Oh, the eepers must have got them. There's eepers in the walls. And like when we were kids, we were always looking. There's eepers around here somewhere.
What the heck?
Eepers, creepers. What
is it like a cootie? You just say it and you don't know.
We have no idea.
We have a wandering black hole at my house. It'll come by and pick up a sock.
Yeah.
And take it.
Yeah.
And then it brings it back a couple of weeks.
Those are
later.
eepers.
Yeah. My wallet.
It's a wandering black hole at our house.
End up there. Yeah.
Pajama people.
The pajama people.
Yeah. Okay.
What's this now? Calculus says a
child drowning creature with a cucumber addictions and tries to extract your soul from your
back.
They're like these. Have you ever seen the? They're like these. They've usually been drawn as a turtle-like creature. They have like water in their head, like their heads.
Okay.
So you knock the water out of their head. That's one way to get rid of them. There's many legends, but they do like cucumbers. It's supposed to be that.
I like the monster that sucks a soul out through the ass. So
Yeah, doesn't get much more fun than that, right? That's great, people. So, one thing we're going to talk about next week. This is kind of a tease. Is personal paranormal experiences.
Oh crap! I already told mine.
Well,
okay,
that's okay.
Delete it.
There'll be more.
I got an hour of it. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the elements I wanted to tease for next week. But one of the main reasons I wanted to get into the local legend and folklore is there is a rumor that Scott started that there's going to be a horror collection, possibly.
An anthology?
We don't know. An anthology. We don't know
by
for
next,
sure.
He's
curating the whole thing.
By next
talked about.
It's being talked
all
about.
on him.
All right, talk
all on his
I have
shoulders.
not had a resounding response from the Silverliner, so it's been thrown out there.
I got to cogitate on that.
Okay,
I got to get over
it because I can. If anyone's wondering, yes, our comic book does go on, so that has to happen. But yes, it is.
Right.
It is on my radar, and I would happily, for all you Silverliners out there, and for our Silverliner viewers, we could make that happen. So
I got to get the Divinity Kickstarter next month over with yet before I start thinking about the horror one.
Yes, but the nice thing about it is what we're talking about in general is just an anthology where there'll be several horror short stories, and it will be very cool if some of them could be folklore, some of them could be made up out of whole cloth, some of them may even be personal paranormal experiences, which would add a little extra to it. Any recommendations in this scary movie time of year from folks that have seen one recently, or anything we should be watching?
I still need to watch the new Hellraiser. I have not done that yet.
Okay.
I do like the Descent.
Descent. Tell us a little bit about Descent.
The director's cut's the best version, but it's kind of hard to find. It's about these ladies that go spelunking, cave diving, and they get stuck, and then they find something else down there in the cave with them. Really, really fantastic movie all the way around.
Very good.
When was it made? Recently or
2019?
Okay, so it's recent. Okay,
it's
recent.
It's older than that.
It might be. I think it is older than that. Let me see. Maybe 2000.
Okay, Werewolf by Night. That's a new one, right?
2012, 13.
Yeah, Roland says Werewolf by Night just came out. I watched it. We're going to have a review of that one next week.
I actually have a piece of original art that I inked for that over somebody here on this screen.
2005. Okay, so it is really old. For some odd reason, I saw it sooner. Maybe I saw it more. But it's still a very well done movie.
Okay. Calculus says From Hell. It's beautifully horrible. From Hell It Came.
Yeah, that's that one based on Jack the Ripper. I think it's based on the Alan Moore book, but I'm not sure.
Is it From Hell or is it From Hell It Came? I think he's saying something is From Hell It Came. Not sure.
Drag Me to Hell is a good movie.
Drag Me to Hell is a fun movie. It's a Sam Raimi movie, so it's got a little bit of the wink and nod slapstick horror in it, but it's fun to watch. We just watched that again recently, which is fun. Phil Man says Werewolf by Night was great.
Is it a film or a series? It's
a special. They're calling it a special. It's a little less
than
in
black and white, right?
And it's shot mostly in black and white.
And where can you find it?
It is on Disney Plus right now.
Disney Plus,
For those of you who have it, you need to watch it. Bart. I'm not going to give anything away because we're going to discuss it, but it has some nice surprises in it. And I was very pleased. I didn't know what to think from the preview because they don't show you much. It's just kind of a mishmash of imagery, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it, guys. We really enjoyed our time tonight talking about folklore and local legends and such. And before we go, we always like to close with our traditional phrase from people, and that really comes along the lines of make mine
Silverline.
Hey, I'm Pat Broderick. Make mine Silverline.